Hey everybody, this is Marnie. I'm here today with our guest Janice Porter to be talking about creating real connections on LinkedIn. We're going to be talking about how to make the best first impression with your LinkedIn profile and why that's so important. Also, how to maximize the 5 top things you need to have on your profile. Create strategic searches for your outreach to attract new prospect and referral partners. How the top 3 mistakes people make on LinkedIn messages, why it's important to go to someone's profile before accepting a connection or doing outreach to them. Also, how to stand out from the crowd with your messaging, why being consistent on LinkedIn is important, and the number one thing to do when you make a new connection. Our guest today is Janice Porter. She helps business professionals learn the power of LinkedIn for building relationships and lead generation when she teaches them how to nurture those relationships using an online business tool that sends real cards and gifts in the mail. Janice is the podcast host of Relationships Rule, where she interviews like-minded professionals who see the value in relationship marketing. And you can learn more about her over at her website, janiceporter.com. Excited to have you here with me, Janice.
Oh, I'm excited too. Thank you so much for inviting me, Marnie.
Well, I am a big LinkedIn lover. It's probably my favorite 2 socials are Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook very much for the personal and the interactive side of that, and LinkedIn very much for the professional side of things. And I'm always telling people to make sure that you're on LinkedIn if you want to have professional relationships online, because that's where, well, for example, especially years ago before my show was established, I would go to LinkedIn to find a speaker, a guest on a certain topic. That's where I would go. And people still are doing that. People find me there, and I find other connections there too. So LinkedIn is so valuable for business.
Totally. Absolutely. I do the same thing. I've met some really interesting people on LinkedIn who not that I was looking for them to be a guest, but it became one of those things I could actually use when I thought, oh, they might be interesting to have. So that would start that relationship with somebody. And I've had many guests on my show who I've met on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And it's good for other things too, other than just finding guests for shows.
Of course.
But that's where I became really aware of, as a communicator, aware of the power of getting found there, because I think most people go there to kind of find the people they're looking for and to do the searching themselves. But the reality is you can get found as well.
Absolutely. I don't know if a lot of people really think about why they're there. They get caught up in the
I got to be there.
Yeah, I've got to be here. I've got to be there. I've got to be everywhere. And I don't actually agree with that, but that's what a lot of people do, right?
That's so funny. Yeah. So the concept of being found there kind of leads us into your number one point here, is you have really got to pay attention to what's on your profile page.
Yes. And the real reason why is because, LinkedIn is actually indexed by Google really, really highly. So when somebody Googles you, and when they meet you for the first time, they're going to Google you. There's just not, I hate that's a verb now, but that's really what
it is.
And when they do, your LinkedIn profile is going to show up high in the rankings, in the results. And it better be a good first impression that they see when they go to your profile. So that's why I feel it's important that you put your best foot forward.
Right. So yeah, what are some of the top things that we can do to really make that rock?
Right. So I talk about the 4 H's. The first one is the header, or your background image. Take advantage of that real estate on LinkedIn and use it to show who you are and who you serve, how you serve them, your URL there for your website, something that connects to who you are and what you do. The second H is your headshot. Please have a professional headshot, not a picture of you and your kids, not a selfie. And I used to say in the old days, no beach shots, no nightclub shots, but we still get a few of those. But anyway, make it a head and shoulders, make it close up so people can see the sparkle in your eyes and facing the camera. The third H is your headline, and that's the most important real estate on LinkedIn. It's the piece directly under your name. It needs to not say I'm the manager of ABC company or president and owner of ABC company. It's to show some keywords that people can use when they're searching that will help find you. And if you're in business for yourself, usually it's a benefit or positioning statement of what you do to help people, how you solve their problems, helping people do this, that, or the other. So that's header, headshot, headline. And the fourth H is what I call the hook. And the hook is the first 4 lines of your about section, because that's all that you actually see on a desktop before the see more button. It's even less on a mobile phone. So make it so that people are curious to go further. Make it that they're curious to know more about what it is that you do. And then, of course, the rest of that about section should be client facing, so that it's attracting the people that you want to attract and that you can help, and repel the others, because really there's enough out there for everybody, right? And then the fifth thing really is just to have a complete profile. So make sure that you fill in all those other sections that apply to you, because they will come in handy with some of the things we're going to talk about in a bit. And the one last thing I would make as an actual fifth is recommendations, because they are the true social proof on LinkedIn. So you want to have those to help you move forward.
And one of the things with the recommendations is that they have made it so easy to get recommendations. One of the things that you can do is go recommend someone else, and then a lot of times they'll just recommend you back. I mean, that's like the easiest thing.
It's the
right.
reciprocity.
Right. So be generous with your recommendations, and you'll see that section fill up pretty quickly. And of course, you can ask also. Just ask.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are searching for whatever they're looking for, but you also can do searches for things that you want.
Yeah. So sometimes people come onto LinkedIn because they know, well, they should be there because, one, they know their audience is there, and two, it's because they feel comfortable on that platform, because it is, let's face it, different to the other platforms out there. And every platform has its own sort of synergy and its own energy and its own, rules and procedures. But generally speaking, if you're coming there to grow your business, you'll want to do some outreach to build some more connections, whether they're going to be prospects, direct prospects, or whether they're going to be strategic referral partners, or partners that you can, do specific, combine your services and do presentations or whatever. So when you're doing those searches, there are several different things that you can do when creating the search, and that's even with a free platform. So when you go to that search bar, you'll see that there are filters underneath it. And so you can narrow down your search based on title, based on location, based on company, if you're focused on going into a certain company. And there's other ones as well. It's not in front of me right now, so I'm just going blind here. And the other thing about it is, if you get a search that you like, that you're seeing a lot of people that fit your criteria, you want to save it so that you can come back to it. They used to make it easy. They don't make it easy anymore. So now just save the URL at the top so you can keep using that search to come back to it. And I'm just thinking about the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if everybody understands the term Boolean search. But Boolean search, you can look it up, Boolean. Boolean, it was a person that invented this, I think, this method of searching. So it's little things that you can do to make your search better. For example, if you're looking for divorce attorneys. So if you just write divorce attorney in the search bar, anybody's profile that is within your realm that has the word divorce or attorney could show up. But if you put them in quotation marks, then they have to be together, divorce attorney. Okay. And another way of Boolean search is divorce attorney, or in capitals, OR, family practice lawyers or something like that, so that you're getting both angles to the same search. Lots of different ways that you can search to make your search worthwhile. And I teach a few other sort of interesting ones that are off the grid a little bit, but that can work for you as well when I'm doing my training. So, but that's the basics. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, one of the things I've really loved is that it allows you to combine those search things, like you can say just in a certain area,
Yes.
or just women. It's kind of nice. Yeah.
It depends on whether you're on the free platform or the paid premium, whether you have the details of some of it.
Okay.
But you can do a lot with the free platform. So
yeah, they really have made it very, very easy to use, actually. So
so the filters are all at the top under the search bar, and you can go in and do each one of them.
Yeah, and I think just real quick before we move on, tell us what the difference is when it says first, second, and third.
Oh, yeah, that's so interesting, right? Great question. So a first level connection is someone you are directly connected to. You've reached out or they've reached out, you've hit connect, they've hit accept, and now you're first level connected. So depending on the wealth of connections that your first level connections have will determine the second and third levels, right? So it grows exponentially based on your first level connections, first level connections. Okay. So you and I just reached out to have you connect with me on LinkedIn, and I noticed that you have about 11,000 connections, which is amazing. So when right now you're my second level, so I can reach them, your first levels, but not connect. They'll be my third levels. But now when we connect, your first level connections will be my second levels. So that increases my reach by 11,000 people. And then on top of that, the seconds become the thirds. It's like 6 degrees of separation, only 3, right? In that sense.
Yeah, it's really they built it this way so that people can't just go through and just tag every last person in the world and say, be my friend. So they built it this way to help us really introduce one another to each other's sphere of influence.
Absolutely. And yet we're all so busy that we're not always able to do that. But
one by one.
If we want to build on that, we could ask the people that we're really close to. I've noticed that you are connected to John, Mary, and Bill. I would love to meet them. 3 ways you can ask them. You can say, would you mind giving me an introduction to them? And they could say yes, but it might be 3 months from now because they haven't been on LinkedIn for a while. Or you could say, would you mind if I name dropped, if I used your name to, in my reach out to them? Or thirdly, can I say hi for you? So just to keep it very, So different ways and different ways to do that connecting that can work.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. So 3 top mistakes. What are we doing wrong?
This is in LinkedIn messages, right?
Okay, yes.
When we do our outreach, what we don't want to do is connect and pitch. And that's what so many people do.
Lots and lots and lots.
And what the mistake is around that, and I don't even think it's a mistake in some cases. Some people do it deliberately and they just want the chips to fall where they may. However, if we're sincerely looking to build relationship or to start a relationship with somebody, make it about them. So the mistakes that people make are pitching, making it about themselves. Hi, thanks for accepting my connection request. I have this great program. This isn't even a pitch. This is just like, here's my stuff. Well, that famous quote by, I think it's Theodore Roosevelt, people don't care what you know until they know you care. So they don't care what you have to offer until you show some interest in them. And so that's a big mistake that people make. They think it's, they have to talk about themselves. They don't. And I know there's so many. I think I haven't actually got the 3 in my head at the moment, but I'm thinking like expecting that people can go from A to Z that quickly, right? That they say they connected with you. And are they ready to jump into a call with you? Most often, you don't want to ask that right away either. You want to feel it out. You want to build some rapport. And so if you're not doing that, that's a mistake. And one way to build rapport is, and I don't know what the next question is. I can't remember. But one way to build rapport is to have paid attention to who they are on their profile so that you can draw attention to the fact that you actually read their profile.
I think one of the, like for me, you mentioned I have, over 10,000 connections. And for me, one of the most difficult things is when a new connection gives me a 2-page introduction. And it's like, wow, I just, it's like the Christmas letter that never ends, except that I don't hardly know this person. Yeah. So I feel like for me, and I'm curious what your just response is going to be here, because we're very different people, and everybody listening has their own way of processing relationships and like that. For me, one of the things that I really appreciate about a new connection isn't just, like you said, isn't just the canned whatever, but it's just one little comment about, I heard your podcast about blank and thought it was awesome. Great job. Not even asking me to do anything. Just identifying that they are aware of something that I do that inspired them or something.
So is that in the connection request or in the message after you've accepted it?
Because after I've accepted.
Okay. Okay. Because I want to be clear that when
and that is a question too. So do you recommend always that people leave notes when I don't ever leave a note when I'm connecting with somebody. Either they always do or they won't. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and you always do.
I always do, but I don't make it anything really specific to what you just suggested, because some people don't even read them. They just accept or not. But I do feel that it's polite to actually ask people, would you be open to connecting? Okay. So it might be I'm expanding my network, or I'm coming to visit that area, or I love people who podcast, something little, but asking, would you be open to connecting? And then with that first, if they connect, when they say thank you, or they say nothing, but they connect, now it's time to start the conversation. So yes, I don't think it needs to be super long. However, I think, and it does need to do exactly what you said, point out, why you're reaching out. In one sense, I loved your podcast about this, or I'm curious about that. But if I don't put a question of some sort in there, how am I going to build a conversation?
Yeah. So I guess, and maybe it's just two different ways of thinking how to build our networks. So what I like to do is I like to just go on people's walls a little bit and like and comment on just like, especially, and possibly share, but mostly like and comment, and then reach out with a, connection request, and then just comment about something that I'd like that they had posted. And then we go forward from there. And I mean, it's like, I don't have time to actually have a lot of conversations on LinkedIn, in the chat box or whatever. So that's just the way it works for me with so many. Yeah.
See, that's interesting, because for me, that's a different philosophy actually altogether, because I believe that the money and the magic is in the mailbox. So I don't spend a lot of time on the news feed. I do it mostly through connections.
So it's perfect though. That's perfect. And this is great, because you guys that are listening, you're either resonating with me or you're resonating with Janice, and that's okay, because honestly, everybody on LinkedIn has their own personality and their own way to come about it. And as you get input, instead of, saying, well, somebody's really rude or somebody's really chatty, you just say, this is how different people do it. And there's definitely pros and cons in there. I think the biggest mistake that I see in my own inbox is somebody will send me a connection request, then they send me a pitch, and then they send it again and again until the point where I have to just actually delete them. And it's like, well, that's just so sad. I wanted the connection, but I'm actually not okay with being spammed.
At the same time though, because LinkedIn is a little bit different to some of the other platforms, you can send someone an initial message and they won't see it right away. So you do have to check different things before you reach out to them. And also, don't give up after the first one, but maybe make it a little bit more interesting as to, why. I had a girl the other day, I had sent 4 messages. They were all different, and they were over a span of about 2 months. And she finally said, I really want to connect. Can I book a time on your calendar, or do you have a calendar? Nothing. So it's all about timing
Yeah.
sometimes for people.
And were those just autoresponders that were automatically sent to her? Yeah.
Nope.
And these ones that I'm talking about, that's what they are. They have me on a loop that's going to come back around. If I don't reach out, they're going to just keep hacking at it until I either scream stop or I respond. And I really don't like that. I heard something the other day about networking. How many people go to a networking event to buy something? Yeah. Absolutely nobody.
So the joke goes, how many people come to a networking event to sell something, and everybody's hand goes up, right? How many come to buy something and nobody's hand goes up?
Nobody. Yeah. And it's the same with LinkedIn. I mean, we're really, and Facebook, anywhere. We're really not there. We're really not there to make a buying decision right at that moment. And sometimes we do.
Yes. And we might more often on LinkedIn than anywhere else.
And if we know and like and respect the person, we are highly likely to look for that when we're in the market for it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So why do you look at people's profile before accepting requests or doing outreach to them?
Well, I think in terms of accepting a connection request, if someone's reaching out, you want to know if it feels like a fit.
Right.
When someone reaches out to me, I always go to their profile because I teach people how to do their profile. So the first thing I look at is the first impression. And not that it has to be perfect, but just that are they actually giving me the first impression that shows they're using LinkedIn on a regular basis, because you can tell right away. And one of the pieces, whether it's connection request or outreach, more importantly for outreach though, is that you must look to see how active they are.
I was just going to say that's huge for me. Yeah.
So that means they have an activity section that shows up, and that's automatic. If they're active, they will be one there, and you can see when the last time was that they posted something, and you can see usually the last 2 or 3 times, and you can actually go in and see all of their most recent posts if you want to. But that's the key. I talked about it already about, someone is not going to see your connection request if they're not active. They're not going to see your message unless they're active. So that's why it's important to broaden the scope here a little bit when you're doing your outreach. Don't do 2 and think that's going to do it. Do 12 and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Why did I get 12? Anyway.
It's a good number. Yeah. So the activity, for those of you who don't know, when you go onto their profile page, it's about the 3rd or 4th section down, depending on how many things they have already uploaded. But you have to go to the bottom of that little section and say, see all activity. Sometimes you can't, all you can see is what they've liked, but you can immediately see if they were active anytime in the last few weeks.
And if there's nothing, it will say they haven't been active for 90 days or so.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's just something to.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many people are on LinkedIn and not there.
I know. And quite often if I'm speaking to a group, I'll say, how many of you are on LinkedIn already? And they'll say, well, I have a profile, but I don't know what to do with it, or I don't know where to go, or I'm never there, or whatever. So yeah, it's a most underutilized platform by a lot of people. And, there's almost 1 billion people on there now.
Yeah.
900 million and something. So it's definitely, and the difference between that and the other platforms is it's a business platform.
Right.
People know it's about doing business, and they will talk business faster. So,
and where else can you really literally put your resume online where people are wanting to know exactly what you do? Where else? There's no other platform like it. It's very unique.
What you mean about resume? You're not.
Not a resume, but just like you get to actually show where you've worked before and for how long, and what kind of responsibilities you had there, and your titles there. And it's really amazing.
Absolutely. And your about section is the piece that really has the personality and the flavor to it if done properly, so that people can see who you are and who you serve. So we have a new question up here.
Well, I want to talk about messaging from Janice's perspective. Now because honestly, I get some really good messages in LinkedIn, but I tell you, most of them are really not good.
So I also guess that because you have a big connection base already, and you're a very busy businesswoman, you don't spend a lot of time reaching out yourself on LinkedIn.
I don't.
Messaging. Mind you, with those 11,000 people that you have in your database there, you've got opportunity there to reach out to people that are already connected to you. And I wouldn't look that gift horse in the mouth. I would pull from them a little bit at a time. But how to stand out with your messaging, there's a couple of things you can do. So one of the things in LinkedIn that a lot of people don't take advantage of, may not even know, is that you can do video messaging. So it's a private message, but it's a video, and you have to do it from your mobile phone, but it does show up on your desktop in the messaging stream as well once it's done. So you stand out from the crowd because they can see it's a video right away, which is a bonus in a lot of cases for people. And the second thing that you can do is, again, this is a personal type of setup, in that when I've connected with somebody through that first connection message, my thank you or welcome message is something a bit quirky. Like I ask them, what can you tell me about yourself that I won't find on your LinkedIn profile? I might include something I've seen on their profile and say, but what can you tell me? Right. And then I'll give them a little story about what my story is that you can't see on my LinkedIn profile. And those that respond to that message, they're my people, because they have a sense of humor. And they'll say, oh, great starting message. I hadn't thought about that before. And they'll tell me something bizarre that happened to them. And then I can start to build rapport, look back at their profile and find something else deep in the profile that might intrigue me. And it works. It really works, if, for me anyway, in that I start to build rapport quickly with people. And that's the key. Build rapport quickly, take it offline.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really important piece too. The goal isn't to just stay in the chat box at LinkedIn.
Right. So get them on your list, or see what you can do together. How can we collaborate? Who can you refer me to? Who can I refer you to? But by the way, always start with, how can I serve you?
Right. Absolutely. Consistency on LinkedIn is so important. There's, like everywhere online, there's an algorithm that they're using to see who gets in the feeds and all that kind of stuff. So tell us what you understand about that, how to think about it.
That it sucks. The algorithm for content actually sucks. And hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse over the last year. I've read some statistics by some LinkedIn trainers who are gurus on the algorithm and the content side of things, who say it's actually gone down. And 90% of what you put out there, crickets. But, you do have to realize that if you are a content person and you want to be putting that content out, whether it's once a week, it doesn't have to be 3 times a day, like on Instagram and that kind of thing. But if it's once a week or it's once a day, just be consistent with whichever it is. And notice if which of your pieces are getting traction, right? Because if they're not getting traction, you've got to change it up. You're not doing something right. You got to find engagement. It's not just the likes, it's more the comments and the reposts, the shares, right? And they've made it easy now. You can share a post to somebody in a private message, as well as putting it on your timeline or instead of, which is kind of cool, because you might read something that one of your connections would appreciate, but they won't see it if you put it on your content, unless you tag them. But then that's just if they were there that time. So you want to make sure you could send it as a private message as well, which is good. So what's getting engagement? And another little tip that I don't know, I haven't proved it myself, that somebody's who is a guru in this told me, that when you're commenting and liking now, don't like first, comment first. Comment and then like. It helps the algorithm.
That's new. I haven't heard of that.
But there you go.
Well, I know back a little while ago, they were saying that if you click the like before however many seconds, it was 2 seconds or something like that, then they know that you're just going like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't count. So I see that the comment before you like, I can see why they would maybe put something like that in there.
Here's another thing about the like. If you read something in in an article or a post that somebody put and you thought that was a great idea, click the idea one instead of the like, because you'll stand out from the crowd.
Oh, right. And I know that the other ones, not the thumbs up only, the other ones actually get more weight also, right? The heart or whatever.
Support one and that
right.
Because they're different.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the number one thing to do when you make a new connection?
Make sure you say thanks for connecting and conversation, right? Because and all of those things apply that we talked about in terms of what to put in your messages and what not to do with your messages. I think when you make a new connection, you want to say thanks for accepting my connection request. I was pretty excited when I noticed that you're a fan of, of Toronto Raptors the way I am, or whatever it is that can start a conversation. So find out how you can support them. Ask them, I noticed that you are in the whatever business. How do you find your new connections? Is there something I could help you with to introduce you to someone? But mind you, I say that, but I want to be sure first before I do that. I might want to guide them in the right direction, but I might not want to introduce them to my network until I get to know them a little bit more. I have to be honest.
Right. And I think if we just think of it as a real relationship, I think that's what works the best.
It is a real relationship. It totally is.
Yeah. And sometimes you just meet someone at a party and then you see them again somewhere and you know them because you met them at the party, but you haven't said a word to them in the 6 months or years between. But and so every relationship can't be your best friend, but at the same time, those that should, right?
I had a young man reach out to me the other day who I'd connected with on LinkedIn. And when we met on Zoom, he had done his homework. I had not. He had done his homework. He said, I want to talk to you about basketball. I want to talk to you about this. I want to talk to you about that, all from looking at my stuff.
Yeah.
And
you can tell.
Yeah, of course. It was great. We're going to have another conversation now. So
yeah, awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. It's been fun to have very different perspectives about this come in. And I think that that's the beauty of being uniquely you, is that you get to just try on a lot of sizes and different things, outfits, and see what fits the best. And it's important to find what works for you, not to just listen to one person and say, oh, that's the way it has to be done, but what works for you. So you guys want to for sure go check out Janice's website over at janiceporter.com. When they get there, Janice, what are they going to find?
Well, they're going to find that they on the LinkedIn training page, they can go to the bottom of that page and they can download a free 16-point checklist on my take on how to set up your profile. There's also an ebook on the bottom of the first page on 7 steps to business success, which they're welcome to download. They'll find out who I am and what I do. And by the way, if anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, they can do that too and tell me that they saw me or heard me on Marnie's show.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. This has been really fun. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thanks you guys for being here. So fun to have you along. I hope you